Guten Tag, I'm Aldrahill and welcome to Hearts 4 Kaiserreich. This is the mod that is incredibly popular and asks the question, what would happen if Germany had won World War One? And they have just released a new patch to coincide with the new patch of Hearts of Iron, which changes and adds quite a few things. Alpha Point 3, Eternal Peace. And new national focuses have been introduced, so I thought now would be a fantastic time to take a look at a beautiful nation. And you might be able to tell from my introduction, we're going to be playing some Vikings. So, the legacy of the Weltkrieg is the kind of scenario we play in, and basically it's a turning point in the history of the world. The German Empire and the Commune of France, there's lots of problems. USA and Russia are unstable. Austrian Ottomans are dissolving. Syndicalism? Let's call it syndicalism. Syndicalism, totalism, and radical socialism are spreading all around the world, and there is a lot of problems. Now, this is a very interesting mod because basically Germany won World War One, making them an economic powerhouse, giving them the problems that France had in the original Hearts of Iron. That is to say, a kind of dissolved military in the victories of the Versailles. Victories of the Weltkrieg, meaning they don't really want to progress militarily. And there's a lot of problems with their large colonies. Austria is rather terrible. France broke apart. And instead of communism existing, the Weltkrieg, rather the German Empire, destroyed the Red Russians and installed the White Russians, meaning Alexander Kerensky is in charge of White Russia, or rather just Russia, I guess, the Russian Empire, and it is rather falling apart. They are actually the Social Liberal Party, but there is seriously still a Soviet threat within them. But communism did not manage to spread, meaning that France, instead as a commune, are syndicalists. Anarchic syndicalist commune. If anyone's ever seen Monty Python, the anarchist Holy Grail, anarcho-syndicalist commune. Basically, the people rule the factories, if that makes sense. The means of production are controlled by the workers who themselves work in them. Britain also did the same. They are federalist, congressionalists, syndicalists, anarcho-syndicalist communes. They overthrew their government and kicked them out, and so they're in charge of the Commonwealth, Canada, India, etc., etc. So now Philip Snowden rules a slightly socialist England, let's say. And the US is ruled by Herbert Hoover. They are unfortunately very failing, and it looks like there's going to be a second civil war. You can also play as the French Republic, Philippe Pétain, and try and reinstall France and Japan with Hiroto, because obviously Japan was on the losing side in World War I this one. There's a lot of very interesting, powerful countries. However, that's not who we're playing. We're going to be playing something very interesting. It is the rise of the Viking. The Vikings have been put down for far too long. That's what the Swedish people believe. They are far too much destruction and death in this world. The Kingdom of Sweden needs to rise again. Ruled by Gustav V Bernadotte, with the ideological party of the Social Conservatives, we exist in a kind of... Well, it is a conservative political ideology with a very high joint faction limit. But, I think it's time the Vikings rise again. Because the Germans are too strong. The French, the British, they are all this crazy pseudo-communists. We can't have that. We can't have that at all. No, 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 my friends. We must defeat them. So, we are going to be rising back with the Vikings. The question is, do we play regular or do we play veteran? Ooh, we could also actually do a custom difficulty, which is very cool. But I think we want to keep on Iron Man, and I want historical AI focus, so we're going to get a chance to experience all the new national focuses of the AI. So let's chuck it into regular, because at the moment it is still a little bit strange, it's a bit different. Let's give it a go. Oh, but regular is pretty simple for a person, because I'm quite an experienced Hearts of Iron player. Of course, veteran does, of course, just make you rather terrible in general in comparison to your enemy. The fact that I'm the AI should mean... They're the AI should mean they should suck. But the political power gain malice is very problematic. So let's stay on regular. So we're going to call it... We're going to call it a very cool name. We're going to call it Vikings Rise Again. Let's do this thing. Now, Sweden's quite cool. It's one of the few nations that does actually have its own custom national focuses. So let's take a look at this. So they have a bunch of very cool focuses, as well as a huge amount down here. So all the ones up here are all about the election. I can't do that until September, so I need to do a few national focuses until that point. And once the election happens, you get the choice, basically it can be the middle left or the right. And obviously, we're going to want to play the right to try and push out the disgusting left-wingers. Ugh, yeah. And we're going to probably want to go towards the rep cabinet. We're we're going to not move down towards free trade, because free trade and free trade economy basically means democracy, agrarian reform, German trade. No. We want to go protectionist. We want to go strengthen state influence, rampant nationalism. Sweden is the only power that is allowed to exist in this glorious world. Guten Tag. This means good day in Old Norse, by the way. Not Guten Tag. Guten Tag. We can also go down the industrial developmental side here, which is its own area, adds research trees, and it actually allows us to gain, I think it's 2 research slots through here, giving us 5 slots, which is pretty nice. It's not the highest, but it's good. We also then Scandinavian diplomacy. That's probably going to be the first thing I do. And we can choose between peaceful coexistence, or we can start going towards revanchism. And revanchism is essentially, you know, we need to grow. We are weak. Let's take back what is ours. And what is ours? Why, that's the Scandinavia. So we can actually go look west and look east. We'll probably start with the west, integrate Norway, and then do Denmark, and then we can take Finland. The problem with Finland is that Finland in itself is a paternal of autocrats, and what that means is they are kind of fascist, the kind of basics of fascism, a paternal autocrat. So we want to start looking towards that. But let's take a look at the world for now. So Germany is obviously controls a very large amount here, and all of these are their client states. The King of Poland is independent, but Germany controls a lot of Europe. France kicked out they are syndicalists, and they kicked out their republics and the authoritarian democrats, and they've been exiled to basically their African areas, the kind of colonies. Spain exists as a social conservative, Alfonso de Bourbon, the basically last remnants of the Bourbon dynasty. And the Portuguese Calmana are again authoritarian democrats. The Italian Federation is really interesting, because Italy rather dissolved after the treaty of, Weltkrieg. The papacy is actually in charge of the Italian Federation. What it is meant to be is basically a bunch of independent duchies have kind of broken apart, and the Pope leads them. And they have a choice. They have a lot of independent focuses as well. They have a choice of what to do, whether to try and elect the new popes to be in charge, what kind of things they should push towards, or if they should try and get a king. Interestingly enough, Venice is actually a demilitarized zone, similar to how in the base game, this area is a demilitarized, like the Alsace-Lorraine area. Well, actually, no, this is Germany, so I guess like the Champagne, French Comté area is. Or rather, all this, because the borders are a bit different. So it's actually a demilitarized zone against the Austrians. Austrians are a bit sad as well. Russia's having a lot of problems because they are social liberals, and there's Russian republics, but there's going to be another red crisis. The Ottomans are a bit sad as well. However, they also have the Tsardom of Bulgaria, meaning there's actually some Islamic Bulgarians. And then, of course, you have the Kingdom of Greece. The USA is all kinds of broken apart. Cuba is there, but they are basically going to be messing some stuff up within themselves. The United Mexican States, they would be really, really cool. I'm interested to consider playing Mexico as well, because Mexico has a variety of very cool things. And alongside that, they can establish socialism, they can go totalism, they can start to embrace their own individuality, state atheism. It's not as interesting perhaps as some of the European things, and there's not a lot they can really do with the inevitable US Civil War, but there's some very cool stuff they can do. And Canada has their own stuff as well. They can try and take back the UK, make UK great again. A friend of mine, Swedish Viking, is actually doing a series where he's playing as the Union of Britain to try and re-establish the British hierarchy and conquer Canada and Ireland. India. India has broken apart into 3 individual places. Here we have George V of Windsor leading the Dominion of India. It's the Commonwealth are all allied together. And a bunch of princedoms have broken apart. Social radical socialists and authoritarian democrats. The Dutch are headed by their queen, Wilhelmina. China's broken apart into authoritarian democrats, and also the Qing Empire. Well, these are actually an autonomous puppet of Germany. And yeah, Mongolia is also existent, which is actually quite cool. What's really interesting is that Mongolia is actually an independent nation with its own factions and own national focuses. So you can actually get a huge amount of manpower here and conquer Russia and basically be Mongol hordes. Now that is something I find very enjoyable. I might have to make a little series with that as well, because that's awesomely interesting. So, let's take a look-see. We also have the Australian Federation. Our first moves. Now, it's going to be a little bit hard because we're very weak at the moment. As Vikings, we're not that powerful. We only control a little bit of this kind of lame Sweden area. We have 230,000 people and a few different divisions. How many do we actually have in terms of divisions? Very few. One thing I really like about the Kaiserreich mod is they actually have a different kind of troop. If for infantry, they have... Obviously, they have basic infantry, but they also have garrison and militia. Militia are basically the same as infantry, but they have less defense. They're basically just less good, half as much soft attack. But they require half the infantry equipment and take much less time to train. Actually, no, the same amount of time to train, but they just require less equipment. So basically very good if you're very low in equipment. You can start replacing them with militia. Garrison units require a little bit more time to train. Oh, no, so yeah, no, militia do require half as much production cost. So these require the same amount as infantry and the same amount of equipment, but they have double the suppression while being just a little bit weaker in breakthrough. So very good to kind of, as a rolling out, to kind of take over a large variety of peoples. Of course, the actual dudes here have the same. They actually have the same as cavalry, so that's quite cool. So we can actually use garrison instead and still use them in the armies. We have a lot of very good resources. There's really beautiful, delicious resources here. And I think the route to go, because we're going to be quite low in population throughout the game, because of the, lack of population, we're going to want to go towards things like, tanks, really. Going towards tanks is going to be definitely the move we want to do. So I think going medium tanks is powerful because we have a very high tungsten source and also some good tungsten in Norway, which will integrate soon. We do have some good chromium, but we won't have the factories to produce heavy tanks. Let's take a look at our very first national focus. So our first national focus that we're going to be wanting to pay attention to is the new government. That'll be the election in September. Is it in September? Yes. Oh, all elections are by event. So we can either industrialize new towns and gain research industry bonuses. We can gain political power bonuses, because those would be quite tasty. We gain very little political power a day because of contentious election and a statère. Let me go through that first, actually. So we have a statère, which is basically a type of poor farm worker who are kind of lame. They're very poor legal protection, very limited rights, and basically rather terrible. And they find themselves paid in kinds such as potatoes and flour rather than money. It means we have less consumer goods factories, but we also lose unity and we get less political power. But we have better resources because our farmers are doing good stuff. We've had a contentious election, which means our factories are not as good and our unity is terrible. Basically, we're kind of terrible because everyone's like, oh, I'm not sure about this election. And Landstorm is quite cool. It gives us 4% recruitable population extra, but our organizations are 10% less. So it's not very good. Our divisions are 10% less organizations. So not as strong units individually. We have more men, which is good because we only have 230,000 people. And of course, an individual battalion requires 9,300. So we have enough for at least 20 more divisions to train, which is really good. So we're probably going to want to do that as quickly as possible. We have very few factories. So first moves, national focus. We can either start going towards revanchism, but to be honest, there's not really a point because we can't get that until 39 anyway. So we can't actually declare war on the Norwegians for another 3 years. So getting political power could be a very nice move, but also industry bonuses would be powerful. When we go down here, this is kind of the military area. You get naval doctrine here plans, fleet being induction or trade induction. World diplomacy for more power, and this needs to be 39 as well. And basically, you need to choose which kind of route you want to go down. We're probably going to want to go down to hold the border. And we'll be explaining that later in the series. And you get 4 selections here. Thornell plan, Nygren plan, Rapp, or Douglas plan. I'm trying to say it in as most Norse as possible. Archibald Douglas, though, is kind of lame. But we are going to want to go Douglas because it is the mobile warfare doctrine policy. And we want to make sure we stick to the mobile warfare doctrine. Because in the most recent patch 1.33 for Hearts of Iron, they have actually nerfed the soft attack of artillery across the board, both in battalions and in support battalions. So we definitely want to make sure we stick to mobile warfare because our tanks are going to be our main thrusting force because we're going to be low on manpower. And we do not want to go mass assault doctrine for the love of God. Obviously, it's really nice to have, like, minimum training level and stuff, but honestly, it's just a terrible one. I mean, you get mass mobilization, so you get lots of infantry recovery rate. You can actually chuck extra units in your divisions. You can actually have something like 22 or 24 battalions in your division. You get 5% recruitable population as well, which is really nice. But you can also actually get that through mobile warfare, so this isn't preferable, to be honest. Yeah. No way Grenadier is good. So I much prefer mobile warfare. So we're going to want to take the Douglas plan, then go down here, and then we can start going offensive armies and grab foreign tank design. The problem with going that, obviously you get foreign tank design, you get offensive armies and stuff, which is nice. You get extra division attack. You do miss out on some really nice things, like for example, this actually gets rid of Landstrom, and you gain max entrenchment, division defense, massive recruitable population, or 5% instead of 4%, so it's only 1% more. Basically, it's all about just, like, defending yourself, but it's all, I don't want it, it's lame. Very lame. It does mean, however, that you cannot get, you can't get this one, which gets you max planning and supply consumption, but that's okay. We can instead get this one, which gets leader experience gain and division organization. Lots of choices, lots of choices. I think going towards industry is going to be better. Political power-wise is not going to be our main thing. However, country decision-making is going to be important. So let's actually start to take... Let's try and do industrial town, because we're going to want to do research at least. Because we're going to want to grab that industry bonuses. And obviously we need to get the production before we can get the industry, because it requires that. So grabbing... that takes 70 days. We actually can't do any industry until that's done. Until this is researched. It's going to take 140 days. So let's instead get the Scandinavian diplomacy. While one can be overwhelmed by the importance of world politics, we should never forget that our most important contacts lie with our fellow neighbours and gain 100 political power. So it'll just sit there, basically. Oh, or perhaps we should try and get the Douglas plan. Because that does give... Yes, let's get the Douglas plan instead, because we can't do these for a while anyway. We're going to grab the Douglas plan, and it's going to allow us to get mobile warfare doctrine. Yes. Beautiful. Right, next up, we shall grab production. So machine tools, production efficiency cap, as always. And, of course, construction for construction speed. It's kind of the standard, to be honest. I'm going to wait to get mobile warfare, because I'm going to wait to get those delightful bonuses for the doctrines. Artillery could be something alright, but not right now. And I'm going to want to start grabbing tanks and producing tanks, because I really would like some tanks. Are there any national focuses that give me tanks? There are, but they're going to require 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to require 4 things. So that's, what is that? 4 times 7 is 280 days. So I'm not going to have that for at least a year. And that's if I were to only focus on that. And I'm not. I'm going to want to get up here as well. So I think I'm going to save that for when I start going towards the medium tanks. Or at least grabbing the next light tank. So I will research this light tank so I can at least start to produce some kind of tanks. Okay. This is good. This is good. We're making a good start. Factory-wise, we're going to want to build a few civilian factories. At least one civilian factory. We do actually gain quite a lot of factories through going this way. We can gain 3 there, 3 of each here, which is quite nice. We get a lot of resources there, and an extra 1 of each type of factory there. And I believe if we go through the protectionist economy, going Iron Fist, we get some. I think no, we don't get any that way. So there's actually not a lot of factories that we get through this way, which is slightly unfortunate. The music's on really quiet. Let's turn that bad boy up. So we don't actually gain many factories. So most of the factories we're going to get are going to be ones we build. So I think grabbing at least 1 civilian factory is going to be a very good idea. Why is there 60% in this area? It appears to be construction speed of 60%. Interesting. Well, we'll build a civilian factory here. And that will be finished in 31st of August. So it's going to be good to have at least 1 civilian factory. And after that, we can grab a bunch of military factories. I don't know what the 40% is. There we go. Okay, so in terms of... So we're actually losing political power right now. This is the thing. By going through Douglas plans, you actually stick to 0 political power because of the sheer problems of the contentious election. And that won't go away until contentious election disappears, which will occur in the 20th of September. So I'm not going to have any political power to do anything with, which is very sad. So we'll grab Douglas plan, and then we're probably going to want to grab Scandinavian diplomacy or industrialized towns. So we'll see about that. Next, we're going to want to build more units. But to be able to get the troop with the artillery, which is going to be like the main one we want, to be honest, it's going to require 900 equipment and 24 artillery. So we're obviously going to want to build infantry equipment, and we're going to want to build artillery. Let's see how well we can do this. So they require tungsten, obviously. So that'll make 3 a day and 2 a week. Obviously that will climb up. Yeah, so we can build at least a decent amount of stuff. Obviously, we have basically no reserves. But we can try and build at least a couple. Oh, dear. How very sad. And we'll build them in the Stockholm area because Stockholm is the place to be. Yes, I know they're unassigned, but no one cares. And that means this will be replenished. It will finish in 300 days and 85 days respectively. So we should perhaps chuck up the infantry equipment and turn down the artillery. So then it becomes 225 days and 170. So that's much better. Okay, cool. So chuck the factories into there, and it will of course start climbing up very rapidly. The infantry will begin to take over. Awesome. But this is going to take a long time to do, so let's try and get at least a couple. I mean, we're going to have a deficit of for a long time, so we do want to at least start to train them, and it's going to climb up. So I think 5 seems to be a good area. Obviously, that puts us in a massive deficit. It's going to take 1,000 days to replenish them, but that's going to get a lot better. And as the guys get equipment, they're going to start to train. So let's do 4. There we go. That seems to be the best thing. All right, we started to recruit troops. We picked our first national foci or focus. And now it's going to be considering how we actually survive. We're going to have the elections. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with those. I'm actually really excited. We're going to want to at least try and build a few more ships as well. At the moment, we do actually have 4 heavy cruisers, 4 battle cruisers, 3 light 16 destroyers, and a U-boat. So getting at least some ships would be a good idea. We actually... Do we have any... Wait, did we have battle cruisers? Oops, that was the Navy one. Do we have battle cruisers? We have light heavy cruisers and we have 4 battle cruisers. So we don't actually have any battle ships. Getting battle ships is going to be a very good idea. Simply so we can actually start to... we don't have any oil. So we do want to avoid having any kind of surplus of things. Because look, it's going to take 10 years. Oh, but they all require oil, don't they? Any don't require oil? Well, they're all going to require oil. And it will take 3 years to build a single battleship. But I think it's going to be a good idea to have a battleship. And we're going to want to, at least with our national focuses, start to grab these navy things. We do get political power, actually, from going through these as well. And it will, of course, get us a few extra naval dockyards. And we can start to get better ships. That would be really delicious. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, please leave a like and a comment. It helps the channel out a great deal. And I'm really looking forward to retaking the entire world as Vikings. So, Guten Tag. I was Aldra Hill, and I will continue to be. And this has been Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.